How do you rebuild an empire? 4 centuries after the fall of Rome, Europe was a fractured continent. Its great roads crumbled, its legions were a distant memory, and in their place, dozens of petty kingdoms fought for the scraps of a lost golden age. But out of the chaos, one kingdom would rise. A kingdom of fierce Germanic warriors known as the Franks. They wouldn't just conquer lands, they would attempt to resurrect the single greatest idea in European history, the Roman Empire. This is a story of how a crown, a church, and a centuries-long power struggle gave birth to one of history's most complex and misunderstood entities, the Holy Roman Empire. Our story begins in the 8th century, with Europe under threat. The mighty Umayyad Caliphate had swept across North Africa and conquered Spain. The Christian kingdoms of Europe were on the brink of collapse. But in 732, at the Battle of Tours, a Frankish leader named Charles Martel, the Hammer, did the unthinkable. He halted the invasion. This victory didn't just save his kingdom, it forged a dynasty. The Carolingians. Charles' son, Pepin the Short, made a brilliant move. He allied himself with the most powerful institution in Europe, the papacy, by defending the Pope and granting him lands in Italy, the Papal States. Pepin tied the destiny of the Franks to the destiny of the Catholic Church, but it was Pepin's son who would truly seize that destiny, a man who became a legend, Charles the Great, or Charlemagne. Charlemagne was a brilliant military strategist and a devout Christian. He expanded the Frankish kingdom into a vast empire, uniting much of Western Europe for the first time since the Romans. In the year 799, Pope Leo III was in trouble. Attacked by his enemies in the streets of Rome, he fled for his life and sought protection from the most powerful man he knew, Charlemagne. Charlemagne marched his army to Rome, restored order, and protected the Pope. On Christmas Day, in the year 800, as Charlemagne knelt in prayer, Pope Leo made a move that would change the course of history. He placed a crown on Charlemagne's head and declared him Imperator Romanorum, Emperor of the Romans. For the first time in over 300 years, the West had an emperor. The Roman Empire was, in theory, reborn. But this new empire had a fatal flaw. Frankish tradition demanded that a king's realm be divided among his sons. Within a few generations, Charlemagne's mighty empire shattered into warring kingdoms. The grand imperial title became little more than a bargaining chip, eventually fading into obscurity. The dream of a new Rome seemed to die with it. Fast forward 150 years. The center of power in Europe had shifted east to the German lands. Here, a new, ambitious Saxon king rose to power, Otto the Great. Like Charlemagne before him, Otto consolidated his kingdom, crushing rebellions and expanding his influence. And just like Charlemagne, he received a desperate plea from a pope, Pope John XII, a controversial figure known more for his worldly sins and his piety, was besieged by his enemies. He offered Otto the ultimate prize in exchange for his help, the imperial crown. In 962, Otto marched into Rome, saved the Pope, and was crowned Emperor of the Romans. The title was back, but this time, things were different. Otto was no mere servant of the church. When Pope John plotted against him, Otto did something unprecedented. He marched back to Rome, deposed the Pope, and installed his own candidate. The message was clear. If the Pope could make an emperor could unmake a Pope. This set the stage for centuries of conflict. Who held the ultimate authority on earth? The emperor, chosen to rule, or the Pope, God's representative? This brings us to the man who would finally put the Holy in Holy Roman Empire, Frederick Barbarossa. Elected king of Germany in 1152, Barbarossa was fiercely ambitious. He dreamed of an empire that was not just Roman in name, but divine in nature. His chance came, as it always did, with a papal crisis. He agreed to help Pope Adrian IV in exchange for an official coronation in Rome. But the ceremony was a disaster. Barbarossa refused to perform the traditional act of submission, holding the Pope's stirrup. The Pope refused to crown him. After a tense standoff, Frederick grudgingly relented, but the humiliation festered. Back in Germany, bombarded by letters from the Pope that implied the empire was a mere gift from the papacy, Barbarossa had enough. In 1157, he made a revolutionary declaration. His empire, he stated, was a Sacrum Imperium, a holy empire. This wasn't just a name change. It was a radical statement of power. Barbarossa was claiming that his authority came directly from God, not through the Pope as an intermediary. The emperor was holy in his own right. He, and the princes who elected him, were the true inheritors of the Roman legacy, divinely ordained to rule. And so, the Holy Roman Empire was finally born, not on a battlefield, but in a defiant declaration. It was never a centralized state like ancient Rome. It was a complex patchwork of duchies, kingdoms, and free cities, led by an elected emperor. It was German in culture, not Roman. And after the Reformation, it wasn't even unified in its holiness. As the philosopher Voltaire would later famously quip, the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman, nor an empire. But for nearly 1,000 years, it stood as a testament to an idea, a powerful, enduring dream of a unified Christian Europe, forged in the fires of ambition and the centuries-long rivalry between crown and cross.